The Ravenwood estate glowed under the amber hue of twilight. Stone walls bathed in the sun's final golden kiss loomed over the gravel driveway like silent witnesses to decades of wealth, power, and secrets. Inside the grand hallway, Serena stood alone. The silence was deafening. Her reflection fractured across the mirrored panels lining the walls, 1,000 Serenas, all wearing the same haunted expression. Behind her, soft footsteps echoed. "Do you regret it?" came a calm, familiar voice. She didn't flinch. "Do you?" Marcus emerged from the shadows, impeccably dressed, hands clasped behind his back. Damien's right hand for years. Loyal, yes, but not blind. "I wasn't the one in white," he said carefully. Serena's lips curved, bitter. "No, but you stood beside the man who crushed me." Marcus lowered his gaze. "I tried to warn him. You weren't a woman to be kept in a cage." She turned slowly, locking eyes with him. "I regret not slapping him instead of her." Marcus blinked. "You slapped Cassandra." Her voice was cold, but steady. "And I'd do it again." The ballroom was a palace of light and splendor. Crystal chandeliers dangled like fallen stars, casting prismatic glows on champagne glasses. Violins played something classical, something forgettable. All eyes were on Serena, the radiant bride, as she descended the grand staircase in a satin gown that caught every sparkle in the room. Guests murmured in admiration. Until she arrived, Cassandra, dressed in ivory silk with a lace train long enough to rival royalty. Her hair coiled in a Grecian crown, diamonds glittering at her ears. Gasps rippled through the room like a sudden chill. Serena stopped mid-step, her knuckles turning white around her bouquet. She stepped down, one heel after the other, until she was face to face with the intruder. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered through clenched teeth, smiling for the crowd. Cassandra tilted her head. "Oh, darling, I came to wish you luck. You'll need it." "You're wearing white." "I know. Funny how it still fits like it used to, when he bought it." The slap cracked like a whip. The room fell deathly silent. Then came Damien's voice, cold and venomous. "Kneel." The word landed like a bullet. "What?" Serena breathed, confusion clouding her face. "You heard me," he said, stepping closer. "On your knees." People began to murmur. Guests exchanged glances. Her father cleared his throat but said nothing. Her mother gripped her clutch so tight her knuckles whitened. Cassandra took a smug sip of champagne. Serena's voice trembled. "Damien, this is our wedding." Damien turned to the crowd, raising his glass. "Let's toast to honor, loyalty, and obedience." "Don't do this," she whispered, her eyes pleading. "Please." He leaned in, voice barely audible. "Kneel, or your father's company files bankruptcy papers before sunrise. I made the call this morning. One word from me and his empire turns to ash." Serena looked around. Dozens of faces. None brave enough to meet her eyes. Not even Augustus, who sat watching from his throne-like seat, sipping Bordeaux. Her father's lips parted, but no words came. Her mother turned away. "Damien," she whispered again. "I am the bride." Damien's gaze was steel. "Then act like one, or watch your family fall." Her knees buckled slowly. The hem of her gown pooled around her like spilled cream on marble. She bowed her head, and the chill of the floor seeped into her bones. Gasps. Phones raised. Whispers turned cruel. No one came forward. Not her bridesmaids. Not her friends. Not a soul moved. Cassandra stepped beside Damien, looping her arm around his. She looked down at Serena. Pretty dress, pity about the spine. Serena didn't look up, but inside her chest, something broke. And something else ignited. For 5 long years, the Ravenwood estate was a palace of glass, beautiful from the outside, but sharp enough to bleed anyone who got too close. Serena lived within it like a ghost wrapped in couture. Each day she moved through the marble corridors, nodding at staff who dared not speak. At night, she lay beside the man who had ruined her, untouched, unloved, and unbroken. Damien never failed to play his part. He kissed her cheek before gala entrances, called her my beloved during interviews, gifted her jewels she never wore, dresses she never asked for, and silken sheets she despised. But behind closed doors, nothing, not a whisper of intimacy. 5 years, he had said on their wedding night, voice cold against her ear. You'll sleep beside me, dressed in perfection, like a porcelain doll. No more, no less. You'll get everything after that. And each time he reminded her, she smiled. Because what he didn't know was that she wasn't waiting. It began the 3rd month into the marriage. Camilla, Damien's mother, a relic of ice and pearls, cornered Serena in the solarium. You eat well, dress well, and yet you do not conceive. Serena set down her teacup. Perhaps you should ask your son why. Camilla's lips curled. A barren wife is a business liability, dear. You were meant to produce legacy. Serena tilted her head, voice low. And you were meant to raise a gentleman. The older woman's eyes flashed. A hen that lays no eggs is simply waiting for the axe. From that moment, Serena decided she would give Ravenwood an heir. But not Damien's. 3 months later, she stood in a quiet art gallery in Florence, staring at a painting of Icarus. The man beside her said nothing at first. Icarus fell, Caden finally murmured, but he flew first. Serena turned to face him. You're not what I expected. Caden Thornwood, venture capitalist, biotech pioneer, and Augustus's secret recommendation. I never am, he said. She studied him carefully. You know what I need. He smirked. An heir who carries strength, intellect, and danger, preferably not psychotic. Can you provide that? She asked bluntly. I could, he replied, stepping closer, but I'd want something in return. She arched a brow. What? A future queen. Who doesn't kneel? Julian was born in quiet luxury, beneath the watchful eye of a loyal midwife and an untraceable doctor. A child born of strategy, not scandal. Caden visited sparingly, never staying long. But the moments he did stay, Serena remembered each word. Does it ever haunt you? He once asked, holding Julian as the infant giggled in his arms. What? The kneeling. She looked at her child. No, it reminds me to never bow again. Back at Ravenwood, Damien's interest remained performative. You're glowing lately, he said one evening, eyes narrowed. What changed? Maybe I've learned to thrive in cages, she replied. He chuckled darkly. You always were the perfect pet. She poured her wine slowly. And you, Damien? You've always feared what happens when the pet grows fangs. Meanwhile, Marcus had been watching, always watching. In year 4, he pulled Serena aside after a gala. You're playing a long game. I'm just surviving. No, he said quietly. You're building something. And I want in. She studied him. Why the sudden change? Because Damien's legacy ends with you, and I don't want to be buried with it. On Julian's first birthday, Serena returned to Augustus. The old man, now a shadow of the force he once was, sat bundled in a wool shawl staring into a fireplace. I brought you something, Serena whispered. She placed Julian in his lap. The boy giggled, touching the old man's beard. Augustus looked up, startled. He's not Damien's. No, Serena said, kneeling, but this time by choice. But he is yours. The old man wheezed, a laugh or a sob. It was hard to tell. He's perfect. I made a deal with the devil to give him to you. Then let the devil burn. I'll amend the will. As the fireplace crackled behind them, Julian curled against Augustus's chest, whispering, Mama says we don't have to be afraid. And for the first time in 5 years, Serena felt something new rise in her chest. Not fear, but power. The Ravenwood Chapel was quiet, cloaked in velvet and mourning. Augustus had died just before dawn. A single breath, and the empire lost its last ounce of dignity. The funeral was an invitation-only event. Royalty in a business suit, billionaires in black. And in the very front row, Serena, dressed not in mourning gray but deep emerald silk. A silent statement, She was not grieving. She was rising. Julian sat beside her, legs swinging, small hand clutched in hers. Marcus stood behind them like a sentry. Caden, absent, on purpose. Midway through the service, Cassandra arrived. Late, loud, laughing softly like it was all a farce. She sauntered to the front in a plunging black dress that fit more like a declaration than respect. "You're not family," Serena said coolly without turning her head. Cassandra smirked. "Neither is he," she said, nodding toward Julian. "Should I say it, or will you?" Serena met her gaze. "Say it. I'd love to watch you burn." Cassandra scoffed. "You think this is your empire now?" "I don't think," Serena replied, voice soft but lethal. "I know." The service ended. But the real war began behind oak doors in Augustus's private study, where the board and the family gathered for the will. The executor cleared his throat. "To Serena Aldridge Ravenwood, I leave the South Kensington estate and 5% of Ravenwood Group as promised, upon delivery of an heir." Gasps. Damien bolted upright. "What?" The executor raised a brow. "It's written here. To the woman who brought me my legacy, not necessarily my grandson's." Cassandra scoffed. "You're saying—" Julian stepped forward, tiny but fearless. He said, "I'm his. And I am." The room froze. Damien's voice dropped to a hiss. "You lying witch." Serena stood. "Don't call me names in front of your son." "He's not my son," Damien roared. "No," Serena said, eyes cold. "He's better." Later that evening, as the rain wept down Ravenwood's stained-glass windows, Serena stood alone in the gallery, watching the sky darken. Caden appeared behind her like a shadow. No words, just presence. "I was wondering when you'd show," she murmured. He stepped close, his breath warm at her neck. "You dared to use me." "I dared to survive you," she whispered. He tossed a folder at her feet. A paternity test. "He told me everything before he died," Caden said, voice tight. "Augustus." "And?" Serena asked without flinching. "And you stole my seed for power." She turned slowly, calm as a queen. "I needed someone brilliant, dangerous, noble. You were perfect. You used me like a pawn. I used you like a king." Their eyes locked, fury, pain, admiration tangled in silence. "You know what this means?" he asked. She nodded. "It means we're not done. Not until Damien loses everything." 3 days later, Serena entered the Ravenwood boardroom, wearing a navy power suit and heels that echoed like gunshots. Caden entered beside her. Damien stood at the head of the table. "What is this?" "An introduction," Serena said smoothly. "Helix Prime Biogenetics will be joining us at the table." "You don't have the votes." Marcus leaned forward. "Actually, she does." Serena dropped a flash drive on the table. "Let's talk about the future, gentlemen. And let's make it clear. The Ravenwood name will live on, but not through you." Julian peeked in from the glass door, wearing a little suit, watching the storm unfold. He waved at his mother. She smiled back, calm, collected, victorious. As the boardroom descended into chaos, Serena stood untouched. Cassandra had been silenced. Damien had been exposed. The world still called her Ravenwood's bride. But now, they would call her something else. Power. Rain danced across the Ravenwood estate's black umbrellas as mourners exited Augustus's memorial service. But the thunderstorm outside was nothing compared to what was about to erupt beneath the marble portico. Cameras clicked from a distance. Media had been barred, but they always found a way. This was the funeral of a corporate king, and all eyes were on Serena. She stood poised under the carved arch, Julian at her side, wearing a dark trench coat with gold buttons and gloves of soft leather. Her expression was unreadable. "Perfect for the front page," Marcus whispered beside her. "I'm not here to pose," she murmured. "I'm here to end them." Cassandra stormed down the stairs of the chapel, stilettos cracking against stone like gunshots. Her mascara smudged, not from crying, but from fury. "You think you've won?" she hissed. Serena turned slowly. "No, Cassandra, I know I have." "You ruined everything!" Cassandra screeched. "You manipulated the will, paraded that bastard child around like some badge of honor." Serena stepped forward, slow and calm, shielding Julian behind her. "Say one more word about my son, and I swear." Cassandra slapped her. Gasps. Cameras snapped. Guests froze mid-step. And then Serena struck back. Her hand lashed across Cassandra's cheek with such force it echoed under the stone archway. The red handprint bloomed instantly. "You will never touch me again," Serena said, voice cold as marble. "Not now. Not ever." Cassandra staggered back, eyes wild. "You're unhinged." "No," Serena whispered, stepping closer. "I'm unleashed." By midnight, the clip had leaked online, captured by one of the junior board members' assistants on a hidden phone. The headline was everywhere within hours. "The slap that broke the dynasty. Ravenwood bride strikes back. Serena versus Cassandra. Corporate royalty goes to war." Social media exploded. Memes, GIFs, think pieces. Some called her a menace, most called her a legend. Serena said nothing, until she posted one photo, just her, standing in the Ravenwood hallway. The mirror behind her reflected the empty chair once owned by Augustus. Caption: "Power isn't inherited, it's taken." In the days that followed, Damien began to unravel. He stormed through board meetings, slamming fists on tables, barking orders that no longer held weight. "You will all answer to me," he roared during one emergency meeting. "You mean like she did at the altar?" someone muttered under their breath. Even Marcus, once his shadow, now stood beside Serena. Camilla called for a private meeting. "You let her slip through your fingers," she hissed. "You let her breed outside the bloodline. She tricked me. She outplayed you," Camilla snapped. "And now we're left clinging to crumbs." On the fourth day after the funeral, Serena held a press conference, her first solo appearance since the reading of the will. She wore black, but it shimmered. No veil, no apology. "We mourn a man who valued legacy above blood," she began. "He understood that power must evolve. Those names don't define leadership, actions do." Reporters scrambled, hands shot up. One brave journalist asked, "Is Julian the biological heir?" Serena smiled softly. "He is Augustus Ravenwood's legacy. That is all that matters." That night, Serena sat in the old patriarch's library, Julian asleep upstairs. The fire crackled. Caden entered silently, pouring 2 glasses of brandy. "Congratulations," he said. "You've become the most powerful woman in the company." She looked up. "Not yet." "What's next, then?" Serena stood, walking to the massive oil portrait of Augustus above the fireplace. "We've shaken the throne," she whispered. "Now we take it." The Ravenwood Tower loomed over the city like a crown of glass and steel. On the top floor, the executive boardroom was a sanctuary of the powerful until today. Today, it was a war zone. A dozen men and women in dark suits sat in polished leather chairs, murmuring among themselves, unsure of what storm was about to break. The air crackled with tension. The door swung open. Serena entered first, flanked by Marcus and Florence Greaves, an old-school board member who once served Augustus but had long been underestimated. Behind them, Caden strode in, calm as ever. And last, like a thundercloud trailing lightning, came Damien. He slammed the door behind him. "Let's get this farce over with." "Before we begin," Serena said, placing a slim folder at every seat, "I'd like to submit a motion." Damien scoffed. "A motion? You're not a chair." "I am now," Marcus said, rising. "Acting chair, per Augustus's succession protocol." Gasps murmured through the room. "You?" Damien barked. "You're her puppet." Marcus didn't blink. "Then call me a well-dressed puppet, with majority vote privileges." Caden leaned forward. "Shall we proceed, or should we play another round of Damien's tantrums?" Serena stood, her voice cool and precise. "For 5 years I was paraded around as Ravenwood's obedient bride. Kneeling at galas, smiling at shareholders, pretending not to notice when Cassandra sat at my husband's right hand. Her eyes locked on Damien. You humiliated me, controlled me, threatened my family, and yet I stayed. I endured. Not because I was weak, but because I was preparing. She turned to the board. What you don't know is this. Augustus made me a silent partner in Helix Prime Biogenetics. I now own a controlling interest in its newest division, Neolinia, a reproductive science firm predicted to be worth $2.3 billion by Q4 next year. Lies, Damien shouted, standing up. Sit, Florence said sharply, her voice like a whip. Or leave. Serena smiled faintly. Neolinia's project, Project Celestia, is already in trials. And its face is Julian. A holographic image lit the room behind her. Julian in a lab coat smiling with test tubes, the slogan glowing beside him. The future has a name. This is treason, Damien hissed. No, Marcus replied. This is succession. Serena turned to the board. I move to motion the removal of Damien Ravenwood as CEO. Chaos erupted. Papers rustled, gasps, murmurs, disbelief. A senior member stood. Seconded. Votes were cast, one by one. When the final count landed, 9 in favor, 3 against. Damien staggered back like he'd been struck. You can't do this, he spat. This is my company. Serena stepped closer. No, Damien, it was never yours. You inherited it. I built what comes next. Damien lunged toward Serena, but Caden moved first. He shoved Damien back with a single hand on the chest. Touch her, Caden warned, and you'll leave with broken fingers and no reputation left to salvage. Security entered seconds later. Damien's face twisted. You'll regret this, Serena. You'll see what happens when you cross a Ravenwood. She leaned in, voice low. I didn't cross a Ravenwood, Damien. I buried one. As security escorted him out, cameras from the hallway caught it all. By the time he reached the elevator, his phone was buzzing nonstop. Serena Ravenwood removes CEO in historic coup. Damien ousted after stunning vote. From bride to boss, Serena's rise. Back in the boardroom, the silence was thick. Serena took her seat at the head of the table, the very seat Damien had refused to let her sit in for 5 years. Julian entered quietly, dressed like a little executive, and walked to her side. He reached for her hand. Did we win, Mama? Serena smiled, brushing his hair back. We didn't just win, sweetheart. We rewrote the rules. 2 weeks after Damien's removal, the world was still buzzing. Serena's face graced every business magazine cover. The Queen of Corporate Resurrection. How Serena Ravenwood outplayed them all. Investors celebrated. The board was stable. Neolinia's valuation skyrocketed. But not everyone was celebrating. Far from the Ravenwood estate, in a high-rise condo funded by fading hush money, Cassandra stared at her cracked phone screen. Her face, once on social pages and gala invites, was now buried under headlines about Serena. Her lips curled as she poured herself another glass of wine. I made them, she muttered. I made him. She dropped the glass. I'll make her fall, too. The next day, Cassandra appeared on the Morning Wire, a top-rated show known for controversy. The host leaned in. You were there at the beginning, weren't you? Cassandra blinked dramatically, voice soft. I was the one he loved first. Serena was a transaction. A business marriage? She married him for the Ravenwood name, Cassandra said. Then gave birth to a child that isn't even his. That's fraud. The host gasped. So you're saying Serena? She orchestrated it all. I watched her manipulate Augustus. That child, he's a science project, not family. The segment went viral within minutes. Fake air trended. So did Frauner-Serena scandal. But Serena didn't flinch. When Marcus stormed into her office with a tablet, Serena was already watching the interview. She went nuclear, he muttered. She went desperate, Serena corrected. Let her. You're not going to respond? Oh, I will, she said, standing, but not with words. Serena requested a one-on-one meeting with Cassandra. The press didn't know. No leaks, no lawyers, Just a quiet cafe at the top of the Vesper Hotel where paparazzi couldn't reach. Cassandra arrived, sunglasses on, expecting tears or threats. Instead, Serena handed her a manila envelope. "What's this?" Cassandra scoffed. Serena sipped her coffee. "Proof of the offshore accounts where you funneled Ravenwood charity funds. Signed, time-stamped. Traced back to a fake orphanage in Romania. You remember? The one you cried for at the 2019 gala?" Cassandra's face drained. "That's impossible. You thought I didn't know?" Serena said softly. "You're not clever, Cassandra. Just loud. I'll sue you." "Do it," Serena smiled. "But you'll be arrested before the case is filed. Or worse, I'll release the interview footage you forgot existed, where you bragged about seducing Augustus in Monaco. He was married then." Cassandra's hands trembled. "You want a deal?" Serena leaned in, voice deadly sweet. "I'll give you one." The next morning, Cassandra posted a tearful video. "After years of emotional damage and abuse from the Ravenwood family, I am stepping away from the public eye to focus on my healing." Serena watched from her office, Julian asleep in a blanket beside her. Marcus chuckled. "You didn't just end her, you erased her." "No," Serena said, stroking Julian's hair. "I gave her a mercy exit." In a boardroom packed with reporters, Serena took the mic. "No one builds an empire without scars," she said. "But mine have made me stronger. Ravenwood isn't about perfection, it's about vision. And we're not looking backward anymore. We're building something that lasts." Thunderous applause. Later that evening, as Cassandra boarded a one-way flight to the Amalfi Coast, silent, humiliated, forgotten, her inbox buzzed with an email from No Reply Neolinia bio. Subject: Notice of trademark violation and public image breach. She stared at it, unblinking. It was over. It had been 6 months since Serena took the throne of Ravenwood. The company was thriving. Helix Prime's shares had tripled. Neolinia had secured government partnerships. And Julian's image, young, brilliant, hopeful, became the face of the next-gen leadership campaign. But behind the boardroom victories, Serena was fighting a quieter war. Motherhood. Not just raising a child, raising the future. Inside the Ravenwood Library, Julian sat at the long table, legs swinging as he read aloud from a document titled Shareholder Equity versus Board Voting Power. Serena sat across from him, sipping her tea, quietly correcting his posture with a glance. "Do I have to learn all this now?" Julian asked. "Yes." He frowned. "But why me?" Serena closed her binder and leaned in. "Because you are not just my son," she said. "You are the reason your grandfather changed everything. Because one day, you won't just inherit a company. You'll lead people who want to see you fail." Julian blinked. "Even if I'm good?" "Especially if you're good." 2 days later, a journalist named Lydia Vaughn from the Clarion Ledger published a scathing piece. Julian Ravenwood, child mascot or groomed puppet. Are we witnessing a corporate cult disguised as legacy? Marcus barged into Serena's office, throwing the paper on her desk. "She's baiting us." "I know," Serena said calmly. "What's the move?" "No press conferences, no statements. So we let it blow over?" Serena's eyes flicked toward Julian, who was in the adjacent room assembling a solar robot from scratch. "No," she said softly. "We let him speak." The next morning, Serena brought Julian to the Future Now Forum, a live-streamed tech and leadership summit. The moderator smiled condescendingly. "So, Julian," he said, "how much of your genius is really yours? Or is your mother still writing your answers?" Julian blinked, calm. Then he smiled. "I don't think intelligence is about knowing everything. It's about asking the right questions." The room quieted. "And my mother? She doesn't write my answers. She makes sure I'm brave enough to say them." Applause. Standing ovation. Social media blew up again, this time in their favor. Julian speaks. The air knows. Future Ravenwood. That night, as Julian slept in his room at the top floor of the estate, Serena stood on the balcony with Caden. "He's becoming something I can't control," she said. Caden passed her a glass of wine. "That's the point, isn't it?" She sighed. "What if they use him? The same way they tried to use me. Caden looked at her, quiet for a long moment. They won't, he said, because now he has you. The next morning, Serena received an unexpected visitor. Lady Imogen Vance, a shareholder from the European branch, is famous for her razor-sharp mind and political sway in biotech regulations. Imogen entered with an ivory coat and gloved hands. "You've made quite the empire," she said, removing her sunglasses. "But tell me, Serena, are you raising a king or a target?" Serena's jaw tightened. "He'll be both. And he'll survive." Imogen nodded slowly. "Then let's see if you survive what comes next." Serena tucked Julian in that night. He turned to her, eyes drowsy. "Were you scared when you had me?" She paused. "Terrified. But you still had me." "Yes." "Why?" She kissed his forehead. "Because you were the one thing in this world I didn't want to control. Just love." He smiled. "I love you too, Mama." She walked to the door, heart full, and turned off the light. Ravenwood's name was now on every financial forecast. Investors called it the Phoenix Corporation, risen from the ashes. Serena, now a business icon, was seen as untouchable. But power has a scent, and vultures know how to follow it. In a candlelit wine cellar turned private negotiation room, Serena met with Lady Imogen Vance once again. The woman had poise, power, and a track record of replacing CEOs like chess pieces. "I've had my eye on Ravenwood for years," Imogen said, sipping a rare Bordeaux. "But I never imagined it would be rebuilt. By a woman." Serena tilted her glass. "Sexism disguised as flattery is still poison, Imogen." "I didn't mean flattery," Imogen smirked. "I meant warning." She leaned in. "Not everyone wants a queen at the top, especially one raising an heir that isn't of full blood." Serena's hand stilled mid-sip. "I'm offering you a deal," Imogen said. "Merge with my biotech conglomerate, step back quietly, let Julian inherit in time." Serena smiled. "And if I say no?" Imogen's voice dropped. "Then you'll learn what it feels like. When vultures don't wait for death, they create it." Back at Ravenwood HQ, Marcus barged into Serena's office. "We have a leak," he said, placing a file on her desk. Inside, confidential memos, trade secrets, emails about Project Celestia, all anonymously uploaded to a dark web forum. Serena scanned the printouts, her face unreadable. How recent? 3 weeks? Ongoing? Whoever it is, they have clearance. "Someone on the executive team," she murmured. Marcus hesitated. "Or someone very close to you." Her eyes snapped up. "Who?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Serena rose. "Pull everyone's access logs, now. If there's a traitor in my house, I want them exposed." Meanwhile, Julian was preparing for his first solo public event, the Global Youth Innovation Summit in Berlin. Caden stood behind him, straightening the boy's tie. "You ready?" he asked. Julian nodded. "I think so. Just speak from the truth." "I always do, like Mama taught me." But when Julian stepped onto the stage, a protester in the audience held up a massive sign, "Fake Air Science Baby Corporate Prop." Cameras swiveled. Reporters gasped. Julian hesitated, blinking in the spotlight. Then he spoke. "I'm not here because I was born into power. I'm here because I earned it, with my voice, with my ideas. And if that's threatening, maybe it should be." The audience exploded with applause, but backstage, Serena's face was pale. Not from fear, from recognition. That protester? She knew her. Hours later, Marcus returned with a name. "I double-checked the logs," he said grimly. "The leak came from Florence Greaves." Serena's blood ran cold. Florence, Augustus's most trusted board member, one of the few Serena believed was loyal to her. "She's been feeding info to Imogen for weeks," Marcus said. "Everything. Even Julian's school files." Serena turned toward the window, eyes fixed on the dark skyline. "She sat at my table and plotted your collapse." Serena invited Florence to a private tea on the East Wing terrace. Florence arrived smiling, feigning warmth. You've been quiet lately, she said. Everything all right? Serena poured the tea slowly. No, Florence, everything is not all right. She slid a folder across the table. Every email, every transfer, every betrayal. Florence's face drained. You plan to use Imogen to install your own blood into the company. She promised you a seat in the future, but I'm not Augustus. I don't forgive treason. I did what I had to, Florence snapped. I kept Ravenwood alive when you were just a girl in a gown. And I rebuilt it while you watched, Serena whispered. Then she stood. You're officially removed from the board. The vote's already passed. The footage goes public at midnight. Serena sat alone in her office, a glass of wine untouched on her desk. Julian entered holding the protest sign. I want to keep this, he said. Why? She asked gently. To remember. Serena reached for his hand. Then let me tell you something worth remembering, she said. This world, it doesn't fear weakness. It fears strength it cannot predict. That's what you are, Julian. Unpredictable. And they will never see you coming. He smiled. Neither did they. The boardroom at Ravenwood's international headquarters in Geneva was twice the size of the London towers, and twice as cold. Glass walls, ice blue lighting, executives from Tokyo, Berlin, Dubai, and New York all gathered. This wasn't just a quarterly meeting. It was Judgment Day. At the head of the table, Serena. Across from her, Lady Imogen Vance, smiling like she already knew the ending. Imogen stood, slowly removing her gloves. Madam Chair, she began, with all due respect, some of us question whether your leadership, while flashy, is stable. You've ousted your husband, erased a founding board member, and turned Ravenwood into a social media brand. Gasps, whispers. Serena didn't flinch. I turned it into a future. Imogen's tone darkened. We propose a leadership reassessment, a vote to restructure executive power, and if necessary, replace the acting CEO. The room tensed. Marcus leaned toward Serena. She's staging a coup, again. Serena raised a single hand. Before anyone votes, she said, I think it's time you all hear the truth. Serena tapped the tablet in front of her. A video is loaded on the central screen. Grainy. Old. It was Augustus. In a private recording from just weeks before his death. If you're watching this, they've come for her. My heir. Not by blood, but by fire. Serena rebuilt this house while the rest of us watched it burn. I have a confession. Ravenwood's original seed money wasn't clean. It came from wartime alliances, things I buried, things Imogen Vance's father helped hide. And now she wants to use that darkness to control the legacy I gave to the light. Dead silence. Imogen paled. Serena stood. He wanted you to know the truth. About him. About her. You want transparency? Let's start with your secrets, Imogen. The room shifted. Momentum swung. The chair called for emotion. Do we maintain Serena Ravenwood as CEO and chair? Hands lifted. 10 in favor. 2 against. Serena remained seated, composed. Inside, a storm of adrenaline. Imogen stood abruptly. This isn't over. You're right, Serena said, eyes flashing. It's just beginning. 3 nights later, Serena walked with Julian through the Ravenwood Gardens under a moonlit sky. Tell me the truth, he said. Are they trying to take everything again? Always, she whispered. A rustle in the hedges. Marcus stepped out from the shadows. Get down! A shot rang out. Julian dropped to the ground. Serena shielded him with her body. Glass shattered behind them. 2 masked assailants fled into the night. Security tackled one. The other escaped. Julian trembled. Mama? I'm here, she said, holding him. I'm always here. Later in the security room, Caden reviewed the footage. Paused, zoomed in. Tattoo on the gunman's wrist. A family crest. Who is it? Marcus asked. Caden's voice turned to steel. It's from the Vance estate. Marcus's fists clenched. Imogen sent a hit. Serena stood silent, staring at the screen. I gave her a chance to walk away, she said. Now I burn her empire to the ground. Serena walked alone into Augustus's private vault beneath the estate. Portraits of past leaders lined the walls. She stood before the blank space where her own would one day hang. I didn't ask for this crown, she whispered, but I'll wear it until it bleeds. She turned toward the exit. Her voice echoed in the silence. Queenmaker? No. I'm the queen and the maker. The Ravenwood estate had never known silence like this. After the assassination attempt, guards doubled, security drones buzzed overhead, and Serena didn't let Julian out of her sight, not even during sleep. The empire was under siege, not from the outside, from within. In a stone-walled chamber beneath the estate, Serena met with Caden, Marcus, and a new face. Elias Grayson, a cybersecurity expert recruited straight from a former rival firm. They didn't just try to kill you, Elias said, fingers flying across a glowing console. They tried to erase you. He flicked his wrist. Screens lit up, board memos altered, birth records deleted, financial transfers rerouted. They're rewriting Julian out of the Ravenwood line. Marcus cursed under his breath. They want to erase his existence? No, Serena said, voice hardening. They want to replace it. Caden hadn't spoken much since the attack, but that night he arrived at Serena's door holding a dusty envelope. What's that? She asked. He dropped it on her desk. My adoption file. Serena's breath caught. You're adopted? He nodded. I did some digging. Turns out, I wasn't just adopted. I was selected. By who? Caden's voice was low. The Vance family. Imogen's mother ran a fertility program in the 90s. Genetic screening, designer donors. Quietly shut down after ethics violations. Serena narrowed her eyes. You think she picked you? I think she bred me. Serena exhaled slowly. They used you to get to me. No, he whispered. They used me to build me. 2 days later, Julian was en route to a private tech seminar with Serena and Marcus when the convoy was cut off by a fake medical vehicle. It was fast, precise. The decoy SUV was rammed. Smoke, glass. Julian screamed as masked figures reached for him until a shot cracked the air. Caden appeared diving from a motorcycle, tackling one of the assailants to the ground. Gunfire, chaos, sirens. Julian was pulled to safety. The attackers fled. One assailant was caught. In a steel-walled holding room beneath the estate, Serena entered, heels echoing. She stared at the masked man, who sat with blood on his collar and defiance in his eyes. You were hired by Vance? She asked. He said nothing. Who paid you? No answer. She slid a tablet toward him. It displayed a live feed of a bank account. His wife's. Then another. The account is draining in real time. His eyes widened. Serena's voice was cold. Speak, or she disappears next. A pause. Then, it wasn't Vance. Serena blinked. What? It was someone else. A woman, younger, said she wanted what was hers back. Name? The man swallowed hard. Cassandra. Serena staggered back. She's supposed to be in Amalfi. She never left, Marcus muttered. She vanished, and waited. Waited for us to drop our guard, Caden added. Elias stormed in moments later. We have movement. Cassandra just bought a news network. What? Serena spun. She's running a story. Julian isn't your son. Says he's the product of illegal gene editing. She's calling it Project Bloodline. That night, Serena called a global press conference. She stood in front of every camera, Julian at her side, Caden behind her. I will not allow vultures or ghosts to rewrite truth, she said, voice steady. Julian is not a lie. He is not a weapon. He is not the product of some conspiracy. He is a child, my child, and he is the future of this company. She raised her eyes to the lens. To those coming for us, try again. But know this, I don't play to win anymore. I play to end. In her office later that night, Serena received an unmarked envelope. Inside, a single photo. Cassandra, standing on a yacht, smiling, holding hands with someone new, a teenage boy, with striking blue eyes. The note underneath read, "You crowned your heir too soon." Serena's hands curled into fists. The photo haunted Serena for days. Cassandra, smirking on a yacht off Capri, holding the hand of a boy no one had ever seen before, yet somehow looked familiar. Blue eyes, raven hair, the same crooked smile that once belonged to Damien. Julian's mirror. The boy's name, Roman, age, 14. Allegedly, the true Ravenwood heir. Legally, adopted by Cassandra under sealed European guardianship. The media exploded overnight. Ravenwood Empire faces succession crisis. Julian versus Roman. Who's the real heir? Damien's blood returns. Through Cassandra's game. Inside the estate war room, Elias dropped a thick file onto the strategy table. "We ran the DNA," he said. "Cassandra's playing it well." Serena leaned in. "Is he real?" "Real enough. Biologically, he could pass as Damien's." Marcus paced. "It's genius. She either used old genetic material or found a look-alike and manipulated the genome." Caden's voice was steel. "She manufactured a rival." Serena stared out the window. "Then we manufacture a legacy stronger than blood." Cassandra released a public statement, dripping in faux grace. "I don't want a war, but Ravenwood deserves a true heir of Ravenwood blood, not biotech fraud. The board should decide. I simply ask for fairness." She included a direct challenge, a live televised panel featuring both heirs. The world tuned in. Lines were drawn. Team Julian, Team Roman, billions at stake. The panel was held in a crystal stage above the Ravenwood headquarters. Cameras, press, shareholders are watching from around the globe. Julian arrived in a navy suit, calm but tight-lipped. Roman walked in like a lion cub, smiling, cocky, trained for the stage. The host gestured. "We're not here to pit children against each other. We're here to see who represents Ravenwood's true future." Cassandra sat behind Roman. Serena is behind Julian, 2 queens, 2 sons, 1 throne. The host turned to Roman. "Why do you believe you're the rightful heir?" Roman smirked. "Because I carry the blood. I didn't have to be built in a lab. I was born at Ravenwood." Julian didn't flinch. "And what do you say to that, Julian?" the host asked gently. Julian stood, walked to the center of the stage. "I wasn't born to rule. I was raised to lead." He turned to Roman. "You say I'm not Ravenwood? That's fine. But I know how this company works. I know what our tech can do. I've helped build real solutions. You just learned the name 2 months ago." Gasps. Applause. Roman's jaw clenched. Cassandra's smile faded. Later that night, Serena's systems were breached. Neolinia's private patents were stolen. Messages from Julian's personal account began leaking. Twisted. Doctored. Designed to discredit him. Marcus burst in. "They're framing Julian, making it look like he leaked the genetic data." Serena stood in front of the fireplace. "Cassandra wants to remove him not just as heir, but destroy his credibility for good." Caden's voice was dark. "Then we destroy her weapon." Caden flew to Geneva. There, he confronted an old friend, Dr. Rosalind Hargrave, the disgraced geneticist who once helped Serena with Julian's conception. "I need to know if she used my genome," Caden said. Rosalind flinched. "I didn't authorize anything." "You don't have to. Just tell me the truth. Did Cassandra use my seed to create Roman too?" Rosalind froze. "Yes." Back in London, Serena stood before the board with a live feed playing behind her. It was Caden, holding up 2 vials. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "Roman may carry Ravenwood features, but not from Damien. He is my biological child, stolen without my consent and raised as a puppet." Stunned silence. Serena stepped forward. "That makes Roman Julian's half-brother, but not a Ravenwood, not a legitimate heir, not even Cassandra's to parade." The crowd erupted. Cassandra fled the broadcast before it ended. That night, Julian sat on the rooftop, legs dangling over the ledge. Serena joined him. "Do you think he hates me?" Julian asked. "No," Serena said. "He doesn't know you enough to hate you. But we're brothers." She nodded. "And sometimes, even brothers go to war, but only one becomes king." Julian looked at her. "What if I don't want to be king?" She smiled. "Then we build a world where you don't have to be. But until then, Stand tall. Because you already are one. Cassandra Vexley once ruled every room she walked into. Today, she couldn't even rule the headlines. The lab-built heir, public turns on Cassandra's campaign. Genetic theft allegations mount. Roman, not a Ravenwood? The data leak that changed everything. Behind every viral post was one silent force. Serena. In a high-rise overlooking Geneva's financial district, Serena met quietly with Elias, Caden, and Marcus. "She's cornered," Elias said, "but she'll bite before she bleeds." Serena nodded. "That's why we give her something worth biting." They activated Operation Thornglass, a covert digital sting years in the making. It traced illegal wire transfers, shell companies tied to Cassandra's offshore accounts, and secret meetings with a powerful biotech lobby, all hidden until now. "She's been selling classified biotech intel to foreign investors," Caden said grimly, "including Neolinia's prototypes." Serena leaned forward. "And we have proof?" Marcus slid a silver flash drive across the table. Full surveillance, audio, video, even her voice saying the words, "Julian's not real. He's a narrative, not a legacy." They lured Cassandra to the Ravenwood Tower boardroom under the guise of final mediation. She arrived in black, perfectly tailored, wearing a twisted grin. "Well," she said, "the Queen finally calls the witch for a truce?" "No," Serena replied, eyes steely. "The court has gathered to deliver your sentence." Cassandra's smirk faded slightly. "What game is this?" Elias stepped forward. "No game, just evidence." He clicked the projector. Screens lit up with files, wire transfers, stolen patents, and video of her private negotiations. Cassandra paled. "You set me up," she breathed. "No," Serena said. "You walked into your own grave. I just made sure there was a camera there." Serena turned to the full board. "I motion to permanently blacklist Cassandra Vexley from all Ravenwood operations, past, present, and future. I also motion to issue a formal statement of criminal referral and compliance with international biotech regulations." "Seconded," Caden said coldly. The vote was unanimous. Florence Greaves's empty seat, once Cassandra's secret ally, now bore a plaque, "Vacated due to corruption." As Cassandra stood to flee, security entered. Interpol agents in black suits. One read the charges aloud. "Cassandra Vexley, you are under arrest for genetic identity theft, corporate espionage, and international bioethics violations." She laughed, unhinged. "You think this will stop me?" Serena walked up to her, face to face. "No, but I will." Cassandra's eyes flared. "You're nothing but a glorified mistress who stole a throne." Serena leaned in. "And you're a ghost who never earned one." News broke within minutes. Cassandra Vexley arrested in corporate espionage scandal. Serena Ravenwood clears Ravenwood name. Julian confirmed as sole legal heir. Across the world, Ravenwood stocks surged. Investors celebrated. The final threat was gone. Roman, silent through it all, was placed under neutral guardianship, with Serena's legal team ensuring he received counseling and schooling away from Cassandra's influence. Serena never saw him again, but she left a letter with his caretaker. "We are forged by fire, but we don't have to become the flames that raised us." Serena. Back in London, Serena stood alone on Augustus's terrace. Wind in her hair, silence in her chest. Caden joined her quietly. "It's over." "No," she said softly. "It's begun." Julian ran up moments later, holding a newspaper. "Mama, look. They called me heir eternal." She smiled. "You earned it." He looked up. "Will they ever come back? People like her?" Serena looked at the skyline, so bright, so full of the future. "Yes, and when they do, we'll remind them why the crown never bends." 3 years later. Ravenwood Tower gleamed like a sword against the sky. Its walls weren't just made of steel and glass anymore. They were lined with stories, scars, and survival. Inside, the boardroom was full, but all eyes were on one person. Julian. Now 16, confident, sharply dressed in Ravenwood blue, his jaw firmer, his voice stronger. He stood at the head of the table, not beside Serena, in her seat. "Thank you, directors," he said calmly. Today marks the launch of the Ravenwood Horizon program, our first space-based biotech project. Applause erupted. In the corner, Serena watched from behind the tinted observation glass. Caden stood beside her. He's got your fire. She smiled. And your precision. Later, in the East Garden, Serena walked alone. No phone, no heels, just her and the roses she'd once planted after Cassandra's arrest. Marcus found her there. You're missing your standing ovation. I've had enough of those, she said, brushing petals between her fingers. He sat beside her. You did it. You changed the entire story. I rewrote the ending, she said. But stories never end. That evening, an envelope arrived at the estate, sealed in black wax. From Switzerland. No return address. Inside, a single note. I watched him today. He moves like me, but he'll never become me. Thank you. R. Julian found it later and asked, Who's this from? Serena smiled sadly. Someone who's learning how to be free. Weeks later, news broke. A private jet had landed at Heathrow under a diplomatic alias. Passengers? Unknown. But Marcus handed Serena a photograph the next morning. Damien, older, paler, standing outside an embassy, watching, waiting. What do you want to do? Marcus asked. Serena took the photo, tore it in half, dropped it in the fire. Let him watch. On the final day of the fiscal year, Julian stood beside Serena at the rooftop garden overlooking the city. Are you afraid? He asked. No, she said. Because I built a kingdom that no man can burn. Even if he tries? She looked down at the street where reporters gathered, hoping for one last scandal. Let him try. Julian smirked. You're never scared, are you? She turned to him, eyes soft. No, darling, I'm not scared. Because now, you're here. They turned to face the skyline. And Ravenwood rose, forever in their hands. The end. Or perhaps, the beginning.